you guys sleepy? Have you not had coffee yet?
I had too much
have not had
coffee.
coffee.
I crashed. I had so much coffee this morning. Aaron and I both said that we expended too much energy. Also,
Too much energy with around the time change.
It was time change this weekend, and as Kelly wrote in our daily "Here's What's Going On at Work" email yesterday, decisions were made in 1918. We're all suffering.
That's right.
Yes. No, I'm tired because I had our FECC story time this morning with Buzz the mascot.
Yeah.
And I really had to hype up those kids, get them in the mood. But when you do that for, I think I have 11 groups, 10, 11 different rooms of classes that I have to hype up with all of my energy and excitedness, it sucks up the whole battery of Aaron.
You're
energy.
at a preschool. How many kids?
Probably about 86 altogether.
Wow.
Something like that. They're good kids though.
Wow.
It's a fun group. I love it.
That's intimidating.
Yeah, we had Buzz join us.
And what sort of creature is Buzz, Aaron? Tell the good folks.
Buzz is a beaver, y'all. It's a wonderful mascot for the Birmingham and I think another town beavers that play over at the Utica baseball stadium, the Jimmy John Field. Because it's March's Reading Month, so Buzz came down to see the kids, and then of course we all had to cheer on Buzz to make Buzz feel welcome by singing the Beaver song.
Right.
A classic,
not to be confused with the one on How I Met Your Mother, but a classic camp song.
Okay.
That there's a couple different variations, and I picked the ones that I liked and put them all together into a wonderful, rousing song. And I sung it so many times.
And you still love it. You said that Buzz specifically came down because March is Reading Month.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we're here on this episode.
Wow. Hey. On a podcast, and you know what? Welcome everyone to A Little Too Quiet, the Ferndale Library podcast, brought to you by the Friends of the Ferndale Library. Woo!
And I think we all like to read.
We do. In case you can't tell who's
right?
there.
Isn't that right, Mary Graham?
It is.
And also me, Aaron, and Jeff.
And Aaron and Jeff, yep.
That gave such so I've been watching a lot of Dropout TV recently, and my favorite show is Make Some Noise, and the whole "Isn't that right, Mary Graham" was giving Sam Reich, our players will have to do improv based on prompts they've never seen before. Isn't that right, players?
Mm-hmm.
It also gives a little bit of game changer vibes from that too. Where
I've been here the whole time.
Guys, we've been stuck in this podcasting room for literally years just to record this moment.
Years.
Wow. Before I was even working here.
Wow.
It's kind of amazing.
I celebrated. This room didn't even exist this time last year.
Yeah.
Nope.
I started celebrating March's Reading Month yesterday with the program I do at the middle school, where we did a book recommendation bonanza, where the kids got to recommend books that they were reading, but then also ask their peers and me, the professional book recommender, for recommendations. And we wrote them all down on big pieces of paper so that they could take pictures of them with their phone and get a good reading list. And it ruled. But I am also still recovering from... My middle schoolers are the best, honestly, but there are many of them, and they are loud because such is the nature of the 7th grade.
Can confirm from middle grade tabletop.
And so, you just got to project your voice, but they don't leave any snacks for me. So
rude.
Yeah.
It's after school, though. That's when the munchies hit.
Oh, yeah. That's why I bring them snacks.
Well, I don't know when the munchies aren't hitting when you're in middle school.
That's fair.
True.
Because I could eat as many snacks when I was in my second hour class as I could at the end of the day when I was in middle school.
Sure.
Snacks are the best.
So, I love reading.
I
love springtime.
I also love reading.
Hey,
so
guys,
March is going pretty well for me so far.
Controversial thing.
Yeah.
Guess what?
Do you also love reading?
I do.
Wow.
Whoa.
And I just want to get this out of the way by way of a useless anecdote. I've been looking all morning for the perfect TikTok sound because I specifically want to make a specific type of TikTok message. I wanted to make one of those classic library TikTok messages where you're like, hey, folks.
Hey, pay
And
attention.
I was going to find the perfect sound that was like cool, but stylish, but snooty.
Trendy.
That would say, hey, audiobooks count as breeding.
Yes.
But then I just got on a podcast and said it, so I didn't make a TikTok.
Hey, great.
So
You've
for all the
made
audiobook fans
you've
out
just
there,
made your own sound that people can now go on
and
TikTok
all
and take the
ebook
snippet.
fans and all the graphic
Yeah.
novel fans, everyone,
You're doing great.
we're all
It's your
doing.
month.
It's all reading.
I have a question about audiobooks. Does anyone like go and read or listen to an audiobook specifically because of the person narrating?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but Mary Graham's gonna have a different answer and gonna let her answer. But for me, it's a boring answer. It's usually from memoirs where it's read by the author. But you follow narrators, or you know some by name
I do enjoy
doing fiction.
Comna Holbrook Smith, who narrates the Peter Grant mysteries, perhaps the best to ever do it.
She just saluted everybody.
I have so much admiration for Comna Holbrook Smith. And I mean, it is to the point where Ben Aronovich, who writes the Peter Grant books, will put in the narration, now that he knows that Holbrook Smith is the narrator, he'll mention, oh, it's Peter's cousin who was born in Sierra Leone but grew up in Scotland and went to this school and whatever kind of things like that, so that he could see what kind of accent work the audiobook narrator will do, which is very impressive.
Amazing. He's cutely trolling his own narrator.
Basically.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So
And
meta in a way.
yeah,
love
it's,
it.
it's quite delightful. And I sort of split my audiobooks between, they're either things that I'm rereading, or like Juliet Stevenson is another narrator. She's primarily a theater actress, but she was also in Bend It Like Beckham. She plays Keira Knightley's mom. But she has narrated all of Jane Austen. And they're all on Libro FM.
Okay.
I think she's done all of them. All my favorites are on Libro FM, which is what matters, which is a way to support your local bookstore through digital audiobook purchasing.
Wow.
So it works a little bit like the Amazon-related subscription service that shall not be named.
But it's pure and wholesome.
But it's pure and wholesome. I pay
goes to a good cause.
I pay $15 a month. A portion of that goes to my local bookstore. You get to pick which bookstore, and I get one audiobook credit a month, which is basically buying audiobooks at a steep discount, and then you can buy as many as you want at full price, and
Love it.
you own the files, and they get downloaded to your phone, and it's very nice.
Wait, you get to own the files? Whoa.
Yeah.
What a thing. It's definitely not with that other service.
Fight me behind a back alley, Amazon.
Wow.
So I'm a big Libro FM fan, and I just went through when I realized Juliet Stevenson had narrated all of Austen. I was like, well, obviously I have to buy Emma. I already had her Persuasion, so now I'm listening to her do Emma and Northanger Abbey. And I do enjoy when from time to time fiction authors will narrate their own stuff, which doesn't always happen because they're not always good at it. But Anthony Oliveira narrates Day Spring, which I've been meaning to listen to in its entirety. I will once again say, Anthony, come on the podcast. Audiobooks are reading, and I enjoy. But you're right about memoirs too. Someone recently recommended Bruce Springsteen's memoir to me because he reads it.
Trevor
And-
Noah does a really great job with
Born a
his
Crime.
as well. Yes, Born a Crime. He does such a great job narrating that. I was just like, oh my gosh. There's like always a list of people who you could just listen to read the dictionary to you. And I think for me, his narration, like, he puts him real close to that list, if not on it. I mean, he's not Morgan Freeman on the list, but he's on the list.
Yeah.
Or very close to being on the list. So great.
that one's called Born a Crime, right?
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
Born to Run was the memoir for Springsteen.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Whoa.
interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Those are just the ones that's like, sure, I could read them, but it's much more fun to listen to the person telling it to you.
Hey now, and then my trilogy would be for recommendations of memoirs is Steve Martin's Born Standing Up,
Guys.
also
all
narrated by
connected.
Steve Martin.
We
Yeah.
didn't even plan this ahead of time.
Yeah. And that, folks, I cannot recommend that Steve Martin book enough. First of all, it's only 290 pages.
Sure.
Despite how long his life has been. He's a very concise writer. He's very charming to listen to.
Well, that would make it a pretty short audio then, too, I
Yeah.
would assume. Yeah.
It's totally digestible. Come on.
It's great. It makes for a good car trip kind of
Well,
book.
and I was just about to say, now that the weather's getting nice again, I like to put on a good audiobook and go for walks.
Oh, yes.
That's right.
As
Out
someone
the fresh air.
who goes up north on the weekends in the nicer weather months and has to drive several hours every weekend once those months hit, having an audiobook to listen to for 2.5 hour chunks at a time is such a savior. Also, I like to take one when I go to the Dow Gardens in Midland and walk around the beautiful flowers and plants and listen to the soothing tones of James Marsters or listen to the audiobooks for Murderbot again.
Oh, Murderbot. Yes. Those books are amazing on audio. I've still only read All Systems Red, Aaron. I know. I'm going to catch up.
My dad is ahead of you now, and he started after you.
Oh,
Murder.
no.
You got to catch up.
Oh, no.
Because I used you as the thing to get him started.
Oh, no.
This race.
We're competing with each other.
Oh, no. I need everyone to just read them so I can talk to more people about it.
But that's
please.
Murderbot's another example of they're very good books in print. They are stunning books in audio.
Oh, absolutely. Most of the time, I have a hard time doing a book for the first time in audio because of just how I concentrate when I drive, and that's the main place I do an audiobook. But
Murderbot's an exception.
Murderbot is an exception because I think it's just so much more enhanced in audiobook form compared to just reading the text on the page. Also, some of the names are kind of funny because it's sci-fi, and having the correct pronunciations is very helpful for me.
Is that Kevin R. Free? Is that the narrator?
Yes, sounds about right or correct.
I thought it was Kevin is Free. Sorry.
So, Jeff, how else are we celebrating March's Reading Month over here at your friendly Ferndale Area District Library?
Well,
Besides with bad jokes.
in many ways. First of all, my brain's gonna work to see if that was a leading question. Mary Graham, is there something I'm missing? Because I do have a question, but I hope it's not.
I mean, there are other things that we're doing over in youth. We've got that Battle of the Books is coming up with the 5th grade.
Oh yeah.
I can't wait for that.
Usually do that in March because it coincides with March's Reading Month. So that's our big trivia thing. We pick 6 books. This is like this whole thing takes between 6 to 9 months to plan. So the youth department picks 6 books, and they are basically all on the table. We can ask any questions about any of them, and the 5th graders pick teams, and they either all read the books or they split the books up amongst themselves, and they study and they prepare for one glorious afternoon in March where they get to miss some of their classes to sit in a gymnasium and battle for glory.
Yes. You know what my 2 favorite parts about battle are?
What?
No, okay, I have three things. Okay, the first thing is how excited the kids are when they go in for battle. They're all like, everyone's super jazzed, super pumped up for it.
It's like Jeopardy, but with extra screaming.
It's like the most intense trivia competition I have ever seen. And it's about books. So I love that. Part 2 that I love is that they always come up with some really fun team names.
They all have to pick a team name.
Enjoy the silly names
yes,
that they come up with.
We one year had a champion that was Cheesy McNugs.
Knights of the Periodic Table.
Knights of the Periodic Table.
All sorts of great names like that. That I enjoy seeing the creativity and the humor. And then part 3 of what I enjoy about it is that Mary Graham and I and the rest of the youth department get to go and be the Tome Raiders, our own team with our own cool shirts.
Yep.
And we get to play fun battle music, and we just get to live in the vibe.
Yeah.
Yep. And the books are actually always really good.
They're always really good. We always do a really good
I enjoy
job
reading everyone else's picks that we've gone through and coming up with like my own questions and seeing how everyone else in the department interprets certain books, or seeing what people think is like an important moment of the book worthy to be a trivia question.
Yeah. What was your favorite book of the 6 we had this year?
Oh, that's so hard.
I know.
I mean, of the ones that I recommended, I really liked Will on the Inside.
Will on the Inside was very good.
And then of the ones I did not pick / recommend to be on the list this year, I really enjoyed We Still Belong.
Yep. Which was Julia's suggestion.
Yes.
Yes.
What was your favorite?
That's really hard because I really liked both Will on the Inside and We Still Belong, but I think the one that touched me most deeply was A Seed in the Sun, which is about the Delano grape strike in California in, I think, the 60s, and is about migrant farm workers, most of whom are Mexican immigrants. And I was reading it just a couple days after the inauguration, and it was one of those examples of, John Green has a great line about sometimes books, the best ones just jump down into the dark hole with you, and it felt like that book was jumping down to sit with me for a little bit.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one too.
I had two favorites.
Oh yes, what are your favorites, Jeff?
I really enjoyed Ebb and Flow by Kelly J. Baptist, and I also enjoyed, is it Narya and the Djinn?
Naira
and the Djinn.
Yep, Naira and the Djinn.
Which was a graphic novel.
Yes.
I had two favorites, but I only read two of them. So,
Yeah.
but I did read two of them.
Naira and the Djinn, if you're looking for some celebratory Ramadan reading, it all takes place during Ramadan, so that's a good.
And Ebb and
That's a
Flow
good
is a
one.
novel in verse, which is cool.
Yeah, I really liked Ebb and Flow too. I mean, I like them all so much. It's hard.
And if you need celebratory Eid reading, once Eid rolls around, a couple years ago we did Once Upon an Eid, which is a collection of short stories.
I really liked there was one of the short stories in there that was all about just like they were hiding their clothes. I forget which one it was now, what the name of it was. But there was like one of the stories in there that was like, wow, this could have been its own full-length book.
Yeah.
And I would have been thrilled with a full-length book of like actually a couple of those.
Yeah.
Shout out to Continental Drifter. I don't think we mentioned the sixth book of the
Yeah.
bunch, and I'll link to fadl.org/battle for folks who want to look up these titles.
I like that one because it's a graphic memoir.
Yes.
We don't get a lot of graphic memoirs for...
They're always a
readers and
hit, though. My very
They
first
are.
battle, I think one of the options was When Stars Are Scattered, which is quite an intense book because it's about, I think, Sudanese refugees.
Yes.
Or is it Congolese? I'm sorry.
I think it's
I
maybe...
didn't actually... I wasn't assigned to read it. That was back before we all read everything.
This was a couple of years ago for me, too.
Yeah, but When Stars Are Scattered, I still have kids who come in and who are like, oh, that was a great book. So
That book both touched my heart and broke a little piece of my heart at the same time. Just because, like, the beginning of the book is in such a... kind of like the kids are making the best of it, of a bad situation for them. You know, all in this refugee kind of camp, but
it's a really bad situation.
it's a bad situation. Actually, the same thing kind of deal with A Scene in the Sun for me this year. It's like there's so many wonderful and heartwarming, great moments in the book, but at the same time, a part of me is going, "Oh my gosh, this is absolutely terrible that this actually happened." You know. Same thing for both of these books. It actually happened and it's absolutely terrible. And we just have these kids that are just like persevering. It's like, oh, I'm crying for you inside, but also you're so strong and wonderful and I love you.
And I think it's really noteworthy that those are the books that often, you know, kids will come up to me and say, well, this was my favorite. And they're often very distressing books. And it's not that the kids who read them aren't bothered by them. It's that they're often affirmed by them, even if they haven't gone through something that stressful, or even if they have gone through something that stressful but different.
Yeah.
Like I was talking with some of them. Heartstopper, very big right now, very popular. And whenever the kids I work with have strong opinions either in favor or not in favor of a particular book, I always ask them why, because I'm genuinely curious, but it also helps me do my job well, because I want to buy books they want to read. And when I was asking them yesterday about Heartstopper, I was like, you know, okay, sure, like it's a kind of slice of life gay teenage romance. It's not the only one. There's more gay teenage romances than there used to be. So what is it about this one in particular? And they said all of the conflict is very real. There's homophobia in it. There's people's, you know, crap exes. There's depression, like serious depression. And they were like, those are the problems we have. So
Yeah, it makes it something very relatable.
Yep.
And even if it's not an experience they have had themselves, I think like people forget how much empathy and sympathy kids can have to other situations and how much they can relate. Like, they may not have the exact same situation, but they can equate it to a similar feeling of their own from their own experience.
And they have a very strong sense of justice, I think.
do.
So even when they can't directly relate it to their own experience, a lot of the kids I meet are like, well, but those kids are people, you know, maybe they have to leave Sudan, but like they're my age. We're from completely different places, but they're humans. They're my age. Nobody should have to go through that. And I think that that's deeply important. One of the best things about reading.
You definitely get us, oddly enough, when we do our middle grade tabletop RPG stuff, you see a lot of that sense of like justice come out of kids in the weirdest ways possible, because these kids are also completely fine with going and being little arsons. And
property is not people,
no,
Erin.
property is not people, and they don't care about and even some of the people, it's a little bit gray zone, depends if they like you or not, but you go and give them a corrupt town mayor, and they just like stormed right into that mayor's office, and they're just ready to like go at him and like get him arrested. And it's like, oh, I thought they were just gonna go and be like, oh, the mayor's a bad guy, we should avoid him. And no, they're like, charge
Justice
for the Pokemon.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You guys, here's another thing that will blow your mind. Listeners are hearing this on March 21st, so battle's already happened in the future. So
Whoa,
pretend to be tired.
man,
I don't
battle
have to
sure,
It happened.
battle sure was rough this year.
Time to start planning for next year.
No.
No, summer reading comes
Leave
next.
me.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah,
have to get
no,
ready for
by the end
summer
of
reading.
battle, we usually get a week to go, oh my God, leave me. And then Everett's like,
Summer reading.
okay, summer reading. And we're like, I guess. And then as soon as summer reading ends,
It's time for back to school.
it's time for back to school. And then we get to like October and it's time to pick the battle book.
Yeah, it all starts again.
Wow.
The
Yep.
cycle continues.
Yep,
Wow.
but that's the seasonality of the youth librarian.
Everything is like several months ahead.
There is no off season.
There's no off season.
There's no
It's just
off-season.
different season. But I'm looking forward to the summer reading stuff a lot.
Oh, summer
It's
reading's gonna be fabulous this year.
So great. I'm so excited for
We
it.
got cool programs. We got an amazing theme. What's our theme, Jeff?
It's Color Our World.
Yeah, it
Color Our World,
is.
we are celebrating art and creativity.
Yay, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for all of the programming we have coming up, and the kickoff and the finale and all of our performers and all of the different like librarian led stuff that we're doing.
Yeah.
It's going to be so great.
It's gonna be very neat.
It's going to be so fun. It's going to be so tiring. But that's okay.
But that's why your local librarian runs on joy and coffee or
Yeah,
tea
yeah.
or both.
I've had some tea right now. It's really helping me get through this day.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out how we're getting to the end of the evening shift.
Oh, yeah.
I believe in myself, but who boy.
I believe in you too, man.
I think maybe some half calf is going to be the way we go.
Yeah.
Just
or
enough of a nudge.
make sure you take your breaks. Breaks are important.
Oh, breaks are important.
Like just
And
to
in our
go-
case, legally mandated.
Yes. And I like just either crochet, or I'll read my own personal books for my own personal stuff. Maybe like a manga or a graphic novel or something light
Breaks
and
are
easy.
important.
Breaks are important.
What a perfect thread. I'll take a break in the podcast right here. How about what have you guys read for recreation lately?
I was just about to ask you all, like, what has been your favorite book you've read recently?
Ooh.
I just reread The Judgment of Yo-Yo Gold by Isaac Bloom.
Great
which
choice.
is one of my favorite books from last year. That's YA, so that actually kind of counts for work. Recreationally, I haven't started it yet, but this year, I think it's this year, is the what anniversary of Jane Austen's?
205th.
The 250th.
50th.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what she said, Jeff.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
what I heard.
250th. Anniversary, yeah, because Austen was born in December of 1775 and America theoretically turns 250 next year. So I got this book in on hold called Jane Austen's Bookshelf, which is about the women novelists and other writers she would have been reading. And I love reading about how authors were influenced by other authors. And the book is by a rare book dealer. So I am excited for that.
Yay!
You know what Austen book I'm really feeling compelled to read? Persuasion.
I think I have not read that one.
Because we love a synonym pun. We love a cinnamon pun.
Cinnamon.
Synonym pun.
Persuasion's a great one. It's always struck me as more of an autumn book, though. I always read Emma in the spring. I'm listening to
Emma
Juliet
is
Stevenson
a good
read Emma.
one for spring.
Yeah.
I don't. Summer, I like Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah,
in
no, me
summer.
too. I don't know why I associate Emma with the spring so much because it takes place over a whole year, but
I don't know. There's just something about it. Has very like light, new beginnings type vibes.
I think it also
to me.
got sort of frozen in my mind because the newest film version came out in March of 2020, and it was the last thing I saw in a theater for like 4
it's
years.
frozen in time now. Forever.
And so it's and I loved it, and like I have it on DVD now, and like so it's something about walking around rereading Emma in the springtime.
love that.
This is a transition because one of the most recent books I read was by a contemporary author whose last name is Austen, but she spells it like Texas, not an
Okay.
E, but with an I.
I
Emily
thought you were going to say like Austin Powers.
Emily Austen, author of Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead,
Oh yes, you love that book.
has a new book out called We Could Be Rats,
I've seen this book. I have not read this
and
book
it
yet.
made
And
me
Looks fun.
Why aren't they rats?
it made me cry
If they could be rats.
in a good way.
Okay.
There's a happy ending, but it's rough to get there.
Oof.
I don't know. I kind of like it when books are emotionally rough in the middle.
Yeah.
It gives you something fun to hold on to.
Yeah, good for anyone who likes coming of age books, a bit of family drama books, a bit of small town life books, and a bit of not magical realism. However, escaping to one's imagination is a key plot point.
I love that.
Yes. So, it takes place in Canada, and also has heavy subject matter, which mostly just drug addiction. But again, there's going to be a happy ending. If you get there, you'll just cry. And the sisters, their relationship is so interesting. She's so good at writing characters. She's so good at writing dialogue. We Could Be Rats by Emily Austen.
So something I would not want to read on desk because I would probably
Maybe
cry.
You might cry.
I don't like to cry on desk because then children get concerned.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what the last book I read that made me cry was. A Seed in the Sun made me cry, but I feel like I've read something since then that also made
I
me
think
cry.
I'm Glad My Mother's Dead, the McCurdy.
Oh, I'm glad my mom died.
Yes, that
yeah.
one. Thank you. That one made me cry
Jeanette.
at points.
Is it Jeanette?
Oh,
Jeanette, yes.
Jeanette McCurdy.
yeah. I know what the last book that made me cry was. Everything Sad is Untrue by Daniel Nayeri.
Well,
Crying in
which-
H Mart also made me cry. I read that
That's
recently.
appropriate.
I was thinking about reading that one.
It will make you cry.
Okay,
Like
wow.
within pages.
In
I
H
was
Mart or not.
sobbing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everything Sad is Untrue is an autobiographical novel. It is a children's novel. We have it here in the Kids Corner. And it is about this kid named Daniel, very heavily based on the author, who became a refugee from Iran at the age of 8 after his mother converted to Christianity, which is it is illegal to do, or I think it still is. It certainly was at the time in Iran under the present regime. And so after a couple of years of being ping-ponged around from country to country, they were able to settle in Oklahoma. But it's a book about all that, and it's beautifully written. And it made me cry, I think, 3 times within the first 100 pages, and then again by the end. So.
Wow.
I love that.
Wait, Aaron, did you say what you've been reading lately?
No.
One of these days.
But so I just finished book 2 in the Stormlight Archive of the Cosmere, done by Brandon Sanderson. So
Which is 900 pages long.
it's over 1,000, Jeff. You gotta
Here's
go
what
higher.
you need to understand about Brandon Sanderson.
They're all that long.
Stephen King himself thinks Sanderson is nuts for how much he writes.
Sure is, but the books are very well written. So I just finished that one. It was super great. All of the characters from the first book who didn't really interact much with the other main characters all got to come together, which I love to see. And everyone's figuring out what their little magical superpowers are, which is great to see. And there was a really big battle, and oh my gosh, so many things were happening. And one of the big twists of the book, I figured out far ahead of time. I was like, hey, Damon, I think this is what's going to happen. I think this is what it is. And I often have very crackpot theories what's going to happen, but this one was true.
That's impressive because I often have no theories at all, not even crackpot ones.
Whoa.
I love to come up with crackpot theories. Mostly, it's half to entertain Damon because Damon has read all these books and treasures all these books so deeply that I think it's entertaining to them when I am just like coming up with these off the wall things. And I think it entertains them even more when one of the crackpot theories that I put out there is actually accurate and they're desperately trying not to go and be like, yes, you're right, but it actually is.
Amazing.
So I just finished that. Now I've got two things I'm reading. One is one of Sanderson's early works. I think one of the only ones that's like less than 1,000 pages. It's like 300 and some, like a normal average kind of booky length, called Elantris, which has got like some fun stuff going on. But I didn't read anything about what this book is going into it. I just went, Damon, what's the next one? So I'm going in kind of blind. We just started that. And then I'm reading a new old webtoon that I think is Korean. That's been really lovely. It's like historic European romance setting.
I'm listening.
Super strong main lead girl from Germany. Like, there's all this stuff going on where her parents died. Her one sibling has been off in Poland fighting the Prussians. Her other sibling, who's the only one who can inherit the household name now that her parents are dead, they decided to run off. So she's basically getting into this like arranged marriage kind of situation with this dude who comes off very scary.
Wow.
But what I like about it is both of the main characters are equally interesting and not toxic in their relationship, which is, let me tell you, hard to find a non-toxic one when you're going into this genre of webtoon. And also, there's a lot of secondary queer characters, which is something you don't see like almost at all in this genre. It's either it's the main thing or they're playing for stereotypes. This is not the case. They're just there having their little side romances. We've got like a bi character and then a gay one, and it's just all so lovely and well written. It's very refreshing.
Amazing.
Just don't ask me the name because I could not pronounce it because I don't speak Korean.
Okay.
Do you have books coming out soon that aren't out yet that you're looking forward to?
I'm so glad you asked. The Martha Wells books. I talked about this back when we were talking about books that we were looking forward to coming out in 2025. But the Queen Witch, which is the second book in a series done by Martha Wells, is her current fantasy series.
Is the first one The Witch King?
It is. Oh, sorry, not Queen Witch, it's Queen Demon, I think.
Okay.
Something like that. It's promising to be very good. I've been re-listening to the audiobook of The Witch King in preparation because Kaisaran is a super well written character. It gives some slight murder body vibes in terms of like the humor to the book.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going into like the fantasy side of Martha Wells, which is actually what I think she does more of, is more fantasy books than sci-fi books. Mm-hmm. It's a lovely introduction to Martha Wells on the fantasy side of things, I think, because there's a lot of good world building. All the books are a bit longer, so unlike the Murderbot novellas. Mm-hmm. Lots of really great world building with a really fun magic. Some really interesting like twist on preconceived notions of things, which is delightful. And it's not like that high fantasy that can be somewhat inaccessible.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really looking forward to the new one coming out. And I'm just having my hands underneath me, just waiting for it to come so that way I can just read it. And then I'll just hole myself away at home. I'm probably going to take off a couple days of work so I can just stay at home with Amelia, my cat, and we will just read. The
Amazing.
most perfect thing to do.
Yes.
I'm just looking ahead. Do you have books you're looking forward to, Mary Graham?
Oh, Jeff, I'm so glad you asked. So first of all, the third book in the Little Thieves trilogy by Margaret Owen is coming out. I believe that one's called Holy Terrors.
It's coming out, I believe, next month.
So soon.
I've purchased it for the library.
So soon. Oh my gosh. Listeners may remember my recommendation of Little Thieves from several years ago on our Women's Wrongs episode, because the best summary of the first book is, it is a beautiful day in fantasy Germany and you are a horrible goose girl. It is a sort of loose reinterpretation of the Goose Girl fairy tale. And the second one, which is called Painted Devils, the main character accidentally starts a cult.
Oops.
Oops.
Don't you hate when that happens?
And then here comes the third one, and I'm so excited because the end of the second one was heartbreaking, and I need her to reunite with her love interest, who is described in the first book as though a collection of pool cue sticks had unionized.
That is the silliest description ever, and I love it.
But it's so him. And then Cal Woods, who writes for adults, has her second book coming out. She wrote a fabulous Hansel and Gretel inspired book called After the Forest, that is basically like what happens to Hansel and Gretel when they grow up. How do you come back from that?
With a lot of therapy.
But there is no therapy in 1600s Bavaria.
Boo! Yes.
The thing that I thought was very delightful and interesting about that book is that it takes place right at the end of, I want to say, the 30 Years' War, one of the Germanic wars of religion. So it is really well grounded in the historical context she chose to set it in. And at one point there's a witchcraft trial, and as someone who studied the early modern literature from that era, it was so appropriately done. Like, the character was accused of witchcraft for all the reasons she historically would have been. And also, let us remind ourselves, witchcraft trials belong most firmly in the early modern era. Leave the medievals out of this.
People love to go and mishmash history around, though, Mary Graham. If we can't be inaccurate with our history, where will we be?
Accurate. You'd be accurate with your history. I was well trained by too many medievalists to let people escape with this. Trust me, the medieval world had enough problems. You don't need to give it ones it didn't actually have. So Cal Woods' new book is a sort of combination of Cinderella and The Little Mermaid. So I think it takes place on the coast of Breton, or the Breton coast, so Brittany. And I'm very excited about it. I've already put it on hold. I don't remember when it comes out, but it's got to be soon if I'm able to put it on hold in the catalog. So
I have a question for you, Mary Graham.
Oh, yes.
If there was one historical time period you think has been the most mangled in fiction books, what would you think this time period is? Or at least the one that, if maybe not the most mangled, the one that bothers you about how mangled it is.
I think it would be the 1960s, because director James Mangold has made a lot of movies set in the 60s, so he's really mangled that era with Bob Dylan and Johnny Cash. Just totally mangled.
For the listeners at home, Mary Graham is just hanging her head in shame and sadness and regret for agreeing to participate in this podcast in this exact moment.
Okay, you're saying.
my answer is probably the Middle Ages, just because it is what I know enough about. To like, I know too much. So when people mischaracterize how religion worked or like witchcraft or whatever, it just bugs me, because it's, and I mean, also saying the Middle Ages, that's a 1,000-year period, so it's a huge span of time. But it's a 1,000-year period. It's a huge span of time. Like, do your research. There are lots of deliciously weird medievalists out there ready to tell you all about eels. I'm not kidding. That's a real guy. Medieval eel guy. And of course, now I've forgotten his name. Green? Green something?
You could literally tell me any name and I would just be like, sounds
That's fair.
right.
All you need to know is that he's medieval eel guy and he's also a cartographer and he's awesome. Everyone go read about medieval eels. But when stuff like that is out there, I'm like, well, you have no excuse for being wrong about witchcraft in the Middle Ages. So yeah. I think everybody has their own sort of bugbears. That just happens to be mine.
When you say bugbears, I immediately think of Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, what is a bugbear in the Dungeons and Dragons?
Think of a giant bear.
Okay.
Oh.
I'm thinking of one.
That's about it.
That's it. Yeah.
No, it's a little bit more of an intelligent race than your average bear. A little bit smarter, a little bit meaner. I think
they're smarter than your average bear.
They are. They do usually reside in like naturey areas. Often you see them working with like kobolds, which are little guys, or goblins or things of that nature. They tend to be a little bit mean. They tend to be a little bit bossy. They tend to be, I think, like a chaotic evil alignment, which means, yeah, they just are mean. In Dungeons and Dragons terms. They're usually a boss that you fight when you're a lower level party of people. It's an early boss for a lot of stuff.
I have fun junk foodie books coming out that I'm looking forward to.
Junk foodie book.
Someone on this staff was appreciative recently of a John Scalzi book. I don't know who it was.
I don't know who on earth would love John Scalzi books because they're super fun.
Yeah, and he has one coming out called When the Moon Hits Your Eye.
Yes, I can't wait for that. I talked about that one on a previous pod too.
Oh yeah, my brain is mush, so you'll have to forgive me.
It's fine. It's going to be delightful because it is a series of kind of like interconnected short stories almost about how the moon is cheese and everyone's freaking out.
I'm there.
Yep.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's going to be very classically weird, Scalzi fun. I can't wait. I don't know. Are you very familiar with Scalzi books?
Not particularly.
So some of the other ones that I have enjoyed, we have got the Kaiju Preservation Society.
That one I've heard of.
Kaiju is our thing and exists in modern day times, which is super fun. And then the other one is, oh goodness, I'm going to forget the name, but it's got essentially, it's all about being the quintessential evil bad guy, like straight out of like a superhero movie kind of a thing. And there's talking cats. And
I'm there.
This guy basically inherits his uncle's evil corporation and gets inducted, is basically almost like the head guy of this evil corporation thing he's now got to take care of and fight against other evil bad guys who want to take what he's got and also take over the world kind of stuff. And there's talking cats.
Wow.
And dolphins that want to unionize. You would really enjoy this book the more I think about it, Mary Graham.
Amazing.
And there's a volcano island. And who doesn't love a volcano island with evil lair? So that'll be a good one. We should have a book club about that when it comes out.
Delightful.
In the horror genre, there's a new book from Grady Hendrix, who's also a fun, light guy, former podcast guest. It's called Witchcraft for Wayward Women.
Ooh, yes.
He usually writes charming, fun, but slightly creepy horror novels. And then there was this other one that I just found. It's a debut novel, and it seems to be reimagining the Gothic genre. It's called The Manor of Dreams by Christina Lee. I have sent it to Roddy so that Roddy could try it out. And if Roddy approves, then Roddy will then send it to Mary Graham. Because I don't know how much Mary Graham likes being scared. She might want to know what the scare level is.
Well, it depends for Mary Graham, but I have a high tolerance where the Gothic is concerned because I'm too busy playing bingo. I'm like, blood, a house that's trying to kill you, incest. You know, the moral laxity of the aristocracy has been revealed.
Love it.
These are all so much on a bingo card somewhere, I believe.
Yes.
Because I think of all of the gothic horror that I've read, and you checked literally all of the boxes of all of those.
They're all there in Crimson Peak, baby.
Mm-hmm.
So-
Or Mexican Gothic is the one I was most thinking of in my
Fall
head.
of the House of Usher.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm. But when it comes to regular horror, let's say horror was to like spiciness scale of food.
It depends.
How much can you handle?
It depends on what the horror is. So I have basically no tolerance for the demonic. Like I started reading Libba Bray has a series, The Diviners.
Oh yeah.
And a coworker at a former library recommended that to me. I think Libba Bray is a good author. I have no doubt they're good. I read the prologue, which involves like demonic possession via Ouija board, and I was like, goodbye.
Nope.
Not for me. And did the book equivalent of hitting the ejector seat on an airplane.
Yeah, you
and
cast it out.
That's fine.
Those do get a lot creepier in that exact way as it goes into the book more,
that's a no
too.
for me. But when it comes to something like, I was just thinking the other day about how much I miss Interview with the Vampire, the AMC show, season 3. Where are you? I need Jason Anderson back on my screen. The man who should be Emmy Award-winning Jason Anderson. Why do they keep not giving him all of the Emmys? I'm confused. Anyway, and Interview with the Vampire is, I haven't read the book, but the TV show is pretty gory. I mean, there's a lot of blood. It is very much a horror show. And it's also, a lot of it's about domestic violence, especially in the first season. And so it's not an easy watch, but it is one of my favorite shows. I truly think it is a work of art. And everybody who's involved with it is so good. So my tolerance for that is very high. So it, like I said, it depends. But for something like when I'm expecting the sort of rigid genre conventions of the Gothic, I can deal with those kinds of hauntings, or the house that's trying to kill you.
You know what to expect.
Or yeah, I think part of it has to do with the expectation, there's some kind of curse or something.
Classic family curse.
The classic kind of things. That doesn't bother me in a way that some other stuff does. Can't do cruelty to animals or children.
No.
So
it really bothers me when not just books, but any form of media has like bad things happening specifically to children or animals in them. It just feels extra unfair.
Yes.
Like I'm not one to shy away from gore and horror and all that kind of stuff, but it really bothers me.
There is a scene because Jacob Anderson plays Louis Dupont-du-Lac in Interview with the Vampire, who refuses, at least for a time, to eat other people, and so it's constantly draining like rats and stuff like that. And there is a scene where he feeds off of a cat, and this I was only able to watch it because Lucy was sitting in my lap, and because I did read an interview with him later where he was like, on set I was just tickling its tummy with my nose, and I was like, well, that's cute. So, like, I know no animals were harmed in the making of this should have been award-winning TV show, but still.
If I read a book and it had a scene where someone was doing a mean thing to the cat, I would probably immediately put the book down and not end up returning to it.
Yeah, and that's just everybody's...
Cat it out.
Everybody's got their own things. Everybody's got their own things.
Callback.
And I would have to go pet my cat.
Yeah, I don't want anything happening to animals in the books. Like that's the line.
That's literally the impetus behind the website Does the Dog Die? Which if you ever, dear listener, need you have questions about content or content warnings, or there are things you really don't like to see, I think it mostly focuses on film and TV media. You can always go check doesthedogdie.com. They cover a lot more than Does the Dog Die. And it's helpful.
I should have looked there recently because my dad and I over the weekend watched RRR for the first time.
Oh, I've heard good things about it.
Super great movie. If you don't mind a little bit of the bloody, gory stuff in the action, it's a lot of over-the-top action, which is very silly. A lot of wonderful dancing.
Of course.
Very Bollywood dancing. Really great character development. And these are all like it's interestingly based on historic stuff, which is super fun.
Some of the best Bollywood films are.
Yes. But near the beginning of the movie, and I'm sorry, this is going to be a very slight spoiler.
That's all right.
There's a scene where one of the main two guys, Beam, is taking on a tiger. And they're just drugging the tiger is like the end goal here. And the tiger is trying to kind of eat him. But it kind of bothered me to see this very fake looking tiger just be like a little bit woozy and drugged on the screen. And I'm like, this moment is uncomfortable.
Also, it's a tiger. Its job is to eat you.
Yeah. The guy went out in the jungle covered in blood. What were we expecting to happen? I think it's his fault that he should just let the tiger eat him. Wouldn't have screwed up the rest of the movie and would have made it for a horrible movie for both the other characters in the story, and also because two characters would have gotten eaten and we would have missed on a great developing friendship, because like the bromance is so hard in this movie in such a lovely way. But then the tiger would have been well fed and happy, and that's maybe more important to me.
Well.
And with that,
just think of a Bollywood dance with a tiger.
Interview with a Vampire on To Bollywood tells me we have officially gone off the rails, but it is...
I will put in to say that the very smart people at AMC have released Interview with the Vampire on DVD. You can get seasons 1 and 2 from your local library here in Ferndale.
Excellent.
And hopefully season 3 will premiere soon so that I can have Jacob Anderson back on my TV.
Yay.
In any case... You've gone and done it again. You spent another 45 to 50 minutes of your life listening to A Little Too Quiet, the Ferndale Library podcast, which is brought to you by the Friends of the Ferndale Library. Woo! We also thank John Duffy for giving us music to open and close each episode. If you want to find out more about supporting this podcast, perhaps even joining the Friends yourself, visit ferndalefriends.org. Please also remember to, wait for it, rate, review, and subscribe. And if you leave us a positive review, we can find more listeners, and more listeners can find us. We'll be back next week with more. Happy March is Reading Month. Thanks for listening.